For those of us who lived through the console wars of the mid-90s, the seemingly impossible happened in 2001. Sonic the Hedgehog came to a Nintendo console with Sonic Advance on the Game Boy Advance. Fast forward to 2002, and we already got a sequel in Sonic Advance 2. Introducing a new character, Cream the Rabbit, and her chow friend Cheese, along with a new trick system, the game looked to continue Sonic's renewed take on the 2D formula. Just like any Sonic game, your goal is to race to the end while navigating maze-like zones that increase in difficulty and length over time. You go through 2 acts of each zone, followed by a boss fight. You first start only being able to play as Sonic, but as you progress, he saves his colleagues in Tails the Fox, Knuckles the Echidna, and newcomer Cream the Rabbit. Amy Rose is also a playable character like in the previous iteration of the Advance series, but not until you 100% the base game. While everyone has the ability to do all the Sonic staples, like jump and spin dash, along with the Advance Series edition of a melee attack and Sonic Advance 2's new trick system, they all operate a little differently. Sonic has the ability to do a homing attack, as well as a bounding strike below him. Tails can fly for a medium distance before he gets tired. Knuckles can glide through the air as well as climb walls and do a downward drill claw attack. Cream is able to fly a shorter distance than Tails, but has the ability to attack mid-air using her chow friend. The new trick system plays into some of the platforming here. Once launching off any jumping apparatus, everyone can perform a trick that will either push them forward, upward, or downward in mid-air, depending on the direction you hold while tapping R. While not generally mandatory to advance through stages, there's the occasional time where the game will force you to use the tactic or else face death. Now, the fear of a handheld Sonic game is that the screen may be too small for the high-speed action. And while compared to its console older brother this is slightly true, it's not enough to be bad. You can actually get used to it here, and the game does take that into consideration. Unlike some prior handheld outings that Sonic had been on before. I'm looking at you, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Game Gear. Sonic Advance 2 manages to nearly feel as good as the older Sega Genesis entries that everyone likes to compare it to, but it falls a bit short with a clunky feeling. Sonic and crew don't really get up to speed as quickly, and their starting movements feel like walking through mud. On top of that, all the extra moves added to the game is just a bit of overload. They work for this game, but don't expect to feel outright like the classics. The boss fights did manage to bring over a cool gimmick from a Genesis title. At the end of Mushroom Hill Zone Act 2 from Sonic and Knuckles, the boss fight is a constantly running combat with Robotnik retreating backwards and attacking Sonic. In Sonic Advance 2, all the boss fights are like this with new twists to the Eggman's attack patterns. It's really fun, but the struggle to move ahead really irked me. I don't care that it makes sense in physics, I hate feeling slow in a Sonic game. Something else that bothered me about this game was how they decided to lock the Chaos Emeralds away. In any other entry, you would have to enter a special stage with not very hard to obtain stipulations for a chance to win an emerald. This one, however, takes it an extra step, where you have to find 7 special rings throughout an entire stage to enter the special stage, where you still might not even get the emerald. This just added needless legwork and lost all speed focus in a Sonic game, a massive misstep. The gameplay of Sonic Advance 2 gets a 7 out of 10. When this game came out, the models of Sonic and friends throughout the franchise were in their late 90s, early 2000s era, with extreme and edgy line work, with an emphasis on exuding cool vibes. This game reused the same models from the first Sonic Advance with added poses and animations for the trick moves. They work really well on the GBA screen, being colorful and vibrant, as well as smoothly animated and well detailed on the 32-bit machine. Character actions and emotions were clear and at times funny. It was actually a joy to watch all the character animations when I wasn't focusing on not dying. The stage elements were a good cross of classic design and modern look. The visual stage themes were all on point, and you definitely felt like you were in those intended environments, especially the Music Plant Zone. It's just chock full of character and very unique for a Sonic stage. I wish they took more advantage of the layering though. Yes, we do see some very slight parallax with the far background being in the distance, but there totally could have been a layer of more elements in between to really push the sense of speed even more. It's especially noticeable on the running boss stages. The graphics get a 9 out of 10. The soundtrack of Sonic Advance 2 won't be stacking up too favorably against the likes of Sonic Adventures or Genesis entries, but after replaying it for this review, I'm realizing I've slept a bit on some of these tracks. Leaf Forest is your basic entry for a first level, but once you hit Hot Crater, you can't deny that constant bass line and the melody that cuts through nicely. Music Plant is a bit goofy, sure, but really adds to the aesthetic of this new environment type for Sonic. To this day, when I see snow outside, Ice Paradise is always playing in my head. Keep in mind, Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3 is one of my favorite tracks, but this game's ice track overtakes that in this scenario. They're not going to be your typical Sonic classics, but do give them a listen and don't let the GBA mono speaker be a deterrent. It's nice to hear the classic sound effects of Sonic jumping, collecting rings, and skidding after stopping suddenly. That said, it feels like all the other sound effects are new for the Advanced series, but they actually carry some nice gravitas to them. Impacts feel harsh, explosions feel dense, and menu sound effects are crisp even on a GBA mono speaker. The music and sound of Sonic Advance 2 gets an 8 out of 10. By 2002, I was chomping at the bit for a new 2D Sonic game, even though we were very recently blessed with bangers like Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2. When I got my hands on this one though, I think I killed my experience with expectation. Mind you, I played this through to the end of the basic game, but my clouded experience probably wasn't helped by the gameplay issues I mentioned before. I know now that I should have approached this game a little differently, and if I did, I probably would have had a more favorable memory of it. The nostalgia hit of this game is a 6 out of 10. Back then, people were clamoring for another 2D experience of Sonic gameplay, and Sega responded with 3 entries, trying to evoke the feelings of the Genesis era. While I believe it falls short of achieving that, Sonic Advance 2 is still a very solid game. Once you take off the rose-tinted glasses of the past entries, you can see this game for what it is. Still speedy, still has great music, and in fact much more advanced animation and graphics fidelity than what we're comparing it to. Take a spin dash with this one.